are joined now by Nick Atahn. He's a Chiefs insider for Chiefs Blitz. Nick, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. How about you?
Good, Nick. I was telling these guys off air in our former life, the very first time we talked to you in Omaha, this was at the very beginning of this Chiefs run, and I have to give you a little bit of credit because I think some of our non-Chiefs fans that were listening to that segment where you were basically saying, "Hey, look, they're just getting started. They're on the cusp of something special." And 3 years later, they're on the verge of doing something that's never been done. That's incredible.
Yeah, this is just it's a great time to be a Chiefs fan, and it's remarkable. I didn't realize this today, but there's only 5 players left in the Super Bowl 54 team, and they've won 2 Super Bowls since, and on the cusp of winning 3 in a row. Just the job that Andy Reid has done. Of course, when you've got a unicorn like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones as your staples, it certainly helps. But, Patrick Mahomes is special. The Chiefs were brilliant in getting him from Buffalo and making that trade. And, you just kind of sense it. And for a guy like me, my history. I spent 50 years between Super Bowls.
Yep.
And when the Chiefs won Super Bowl 54, I'm like, I'm good. I've lived a modern version of it.
You're like Cub fan.
Yeah, I'm like a Cub fan, and the history of the Super Bowl 4 team is just, those are friends of mine: Hank Stram, Len Dawson, Bobby Bell. People that were part of my life growing up and into my later years. It's just like sense with Patrick that after he won the first one, that what he's built to do. And for the Chiefs fans of today, enjoy every second, every moment, every game, every minute, because at some point it will end. But I think the Chiefs still have more to do.
Nick, I'm curious because this has obviously been kind of a strange Chiefs season in the sense that it felt like they were always getting by on pretty thin margins. I think if I remember correctly, it's the largest differential between point differential and wins, I think, in league history, if I remember hearing that stat right. And I just look at this team and I go, okay, I understand all that. And still, because it is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, none of it, at no point did I feel like it was fluky. Like, how can both of those things be true at the same time?
It just doesn't matter to these guys. I mean, they have the ability to shut out every distraction, every piece of noise. They don't care about statistics. They don't care about personal stats. They don't care how they win as long as they win. And, I think what's the most impressive about this 3-year run in particular is every given Sunday, other teams give the Chiefs their best. And even though the Chiefs, and we can all admit, have not played their best during the regular season at times, when it comes to the third or the fourth quarter, and somebody has to make a plays on special teams, offense or defense, somebody just does it. If Spags needs to dial up a certain blitz, he does it. If Andy Reid needs to call a great play, he does it. And throughout the entire season, these last 3 years, the Chiefs just understand job one is to win the division, get as close to the number 1 seed as possible, to get to the chance to be in the Super Bowl. No other franchise, no other team in the NFL has that belief, has that experience, has that drive. They all want to be like the Chiefs. They criticize the Chiefs. They say all these negative things about officiating, and they're just not that good, and they're not blowing teams away. W's matter, and that's it.
Nick, let me ask you something, because this is the part that flies under the radar. In full disclosure, this is the Dodger fan in me. And guys, the low-hanging fruit is like, oh, gosh, the NFL salary cap and baseball, it's apples to oranges. And I'm like, you guys aren't listening. What I'm talking about is massaging numbers, right, relative to the sport, deferred money, the way you set up Patrick Mahomes' contract, quietly converting like Jawan Taylor's salary to a bonus to free up money, to bring on DeAndre Hopkins and absorb the hit while restructuring Juwan Taylor's. Things like we don't really pay attention to. How? And I'm like, Fudge, I want Friedman to be like Veach, right? Like, this guy's a monster. 3 years ago, you guys were up in arms about what to do with Chris Jones and who to bring back in the secondary. 2.5 years later, he's making $19.5 million. He's arguably the best interior defensive lineman in football. He's still on your roster. You guys are only 26 years old by average, and you could have $17 million cap space next year. I mean,
yeah, it's probably going to
16-1, 16-2 projected. I mean, you have a surplus.
We don't know what the cap number is going to be yet. I'm assuming it's going to increase by probably 8 to 10 million based on the revenue especially the gambling revenue that's really bolstered the pocketbooks of the owners. But Brett Veach is a master at the salary cap.
It's incredible.
He's got a tough haul. This is going to be tough. He's got 4 free agent wide receivers. Trey Smith wants a boatload of money. You're going to have to sign McDuffie, probably Karlaftis. There's only so much money to go around. He's going to have to be really, really creative again. But look at these players. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins. It's so much fun to watch a guy like that the Chiefs can afford to bring in midseason, who has appreciated every moment, doesn't care how many passes he catches, just wants to help his team win a Super Bowl. And he finally gets an opportunity after 12 years in the league to play in the Super Bowl. So when you look at how Veach runs everything, he's always a year or two ahead of everybody else. And that's what makes him so great. And that's why they're in this position.
Nick, I want to move on to the actual matchup against the Eagles here real quick with the last few minutes we have with you. And I'm curious because, I've watched the Eagles all year. I've watched the Chiefs all year. Is there anything about the Eagles that, as somebody that covers the Chiefs and is invested in the Chiefs, scares you about this matchup?
Not really. I think the Chiefs are lazy.
There he is.
The Chiefs are laser focused. If you watched opening night last night, and you looked at when Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts were on stage together, you could just tell. Patrick's like, dude, you got no chance. And Andy Reid's next to Nick Sirianni. It's like, he doesn't respect that guy one bit.
Well, I think part of it is because he's used to carving up Fangio, but we'll see if it's still apples to apples.
Fangio's 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be 0-9. Now, listen, this is the best Eagles. This is a better Eagles team than what the Chiefs faced 2 years ago.
Completely agree.
Problem is, the Chiefs are on the destiny track. What they're going to do, there's no way. I mean, think about this. They won the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. It's been THREE-PEAT for almost a full year. And though the players don't really talk about it, it's there. The expectation of the fan base, it's there. The expectation of ownership. The first thing Clark Hunt said when they went to training camp was, you have an opportunity to make history. We're going to do everything we can to support that. And trust me, Clark Hunt, he wants this badly. He wants to shove it up, the Patriots dynasty and the Steelers dynasty and the 49ers dynasty and the Cowboys dynasty and say, we're the greatest ever. Should they THREE-PEAT, the greatest NFL dynasty in NFL history, period, bar none, it's over. And then people are going to say, well, can they four-peat? I mean, it's just, this game is so significant for the organization, for the coaching staff and the players about legacy. They get it. The Eagles 2 years ago were really happy just to be in the Super Bowl, and they didn't really practice hard during the week, and Nick Sirianni didn't really know what to do. And now he's in a similar situation where he's got a little bit better team, better roster. You got Saquon Barkley, who's made all the difference in the world, and he has been brilliant. And so they're going to ride that train. Hopefully, that's what. If they're smart, they will. But they may want to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. So, again, look at everything in its totality. And I'm big into the NFL gods, and I'm big into destiny and fate. Chiefs, this moment, they projected this moment, they believed in this moment, and I just can't see a scenario where they lose this football game on Sunday.
That's our guy, Nick Atahn, Chiefs Insider for ChiefsBlitz.com. Nick, appreciate the time as always, and I hope you enjoy the game this weekend.
I'm certainly going to. You guys take care.
Thanks, Nick.